Good evening everybody, Calm Biker here, and it's time for another episode in the Video Editing Basics for Vloggers series. And in this one I'm going to follow on from the previous episode. The previous episode we talked about fades, where you can fade clips in and out. Fade from black, or it's actually fading from transparent but the background is black. That will become more important in future videos. Tonight I wanted to talk about crossfades, which is similar to fades, but it's about fading one clip in through another. So you actually have two clips overlapping for a period, and you can actually see both pictures at once and hear both sets of sound at once, but there's an element of fading for both clips. And just before I show you how to do it, I'll show you what it is that you're trying to avoid. So here we've got two clips, one after the other, and they're butted up against each other with no gap, but there's no fading involved. So as the first clip ends, the second clip starts, and that's quite abrupt. Let's have a look. So you see there's no fade involved at all. Now sometimes that's the effect you want. It can give a mood to a video that you're after. Other times you might want to fade one clip out and fade the next one in. And we can do that using the technique that we looked at last time. So we'll just add a fade here. And I'll do the same for the audio. And now when we go from one clip to the next, you'll see the first one fades out, the second one fades in, but the two never overlap. So that's a kind of a smoother way of doing it, and it gives a different feeling to the video. But what we're talking about today is crossfades. So that's where we want the first clip to play, and as the first clip comes to its end, the second one starts before the first one is finished. That's incredibly easy to achieve. All you need to do is grab one of the clips and drag it in the timeline so that it overlaps the other. As you start to overlap, you can see it's showing us that number. That at the minute is number of frames. This is set to 30 frames per second, so right now that will be a 2/3 of a second fade, but we can keep going. We can make the fade as long as we like. So let's go for a 3-second fade. Although it's not something that you'll probably use in reality, it will show off what's happening quite well. So as we play this one, you'll see the second clip start to fade through the first. So let's play that through and see it. So you can see that gives quite a nice effect as one fades through the other. If we click in here, you can see frame by frame what's going on. Now, this area here, if you watch the previous video, you'll recognize that. The grey area, or the shaded area, is showing us that there's a fade going on. The blue line is showing us the way the fade is happening. So if we click at this point here, the fade out of the first clip has only just started, and it's probably about 80%, maybe 85% opacity or transparency, depending on how you look at it. Whereas the second clip has just started to fade in and is about 10 or 15%. The sound is following the pattern that we saw in the last video as well, that the first sound has faded a little bit because it starts the fade slowly, whereas the second sound has jumped in, has got a reasonable volume already, probably about 35–40% volume, because that's more natural when you hear it. Let's play that again and see if you can spot that and hear it. So it gives quite a nice effect on the crossfade. Now, as with the fades, if you point inside the grey area and get your little quarter circle up by picking up one of the fade endpoints and right click, you get these options for how you want to fade. It looks a lot more complex, but actually all it is setting the option for both fades at the same time. So you'll see it's the same 5 options: the straight fade. So if we're looking this time at the fade out section, so the straight fade where it's just constant, the quick fade followed by a slow fade, the slow fade followed by a quick fade, and so on. And then as you go across, it's changing the way that the fade in happens. So this one's fading in straight, this one's fading in quickly, then slowly, slowly, then quickly, and so on. So all 5 options for the fade in and the fade out are put together in this grid of 25 options. And you can see the one we've got selected at the minute is the one with the dot. So that's crossfades. I won't go into the detail of all these different fades. If you want to see how they appear, have a look at the previous video in this series. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you all for watching. Ride safe, and I shall talk to you all again soon.